tonight we're talking about discovering, defining, and deploying your gifts, talents, and or purpose. And I'm going to give you 5 different sections of this particular broadcast where we're going to talk about. We're going to give you an intro to gifts and talents, so maybe that you know some of the difference. And this is going to have a spiritual or a Christian or a religious kind of tone. So if that's something that doesn't interest you, if you hear the first part and it's too much for you, I do understand. But that is what this is kind of about. But we will talk about just general gifts and talents also. We're going to talk about the intro to gifts and talents, what they are, kind of figure that out. Then we're going to talk about discovering yours and what those gifts and talents that you were naturally born with. We're also going to define, help you know how to define your talents, because some people just don't know what their gifts, talents, and purpose is. And we're going to talk about deploying it, getting it out so that other people can enjoy some of the gifts and talents that you have and what the purpose is for those gifts and talents that you have. And then lastly, we're going to talk about your purpose. And I'm going to give you a quick little exercise as to how you can basically develop your purpose or know, not develop, but discover what your purpose is. So we're going to talk about gifts and talents and then discovering your purpose. All right. So, some of you who know me or you've seen me on Facebook and you've seen me on LinkedIn, you know that I'm a flute player. Some of you have seen me around playing bass guitar. Some of you have seen me sing. Some of you have seen me rap. Some of you have seen me do poetry. Some of you see me do all kinds of things. It's because I leave no stone unturned. Whatever talents I was born with, I'm definitely trying to stir up those gifts and use those. And some of those didn't necessarily come from birth. Some of those came from just working with them. I remember playing in the band in high school, in middle and high school, and everybody's instrument, I wanted to try it. And I just felt like I could play it and started pecking around on the piano when I was maybe 6 or 7. Can't remember how old I was, but I was pretty young when I started just playing around with the piano and realized that I did have a gift for music and an ear for music. And when people are singing off key, it really does bother me because I have at one time what they call perfect pitch, and I could hear when people are off. I don't have that as much as I used to, but when I was younger, I definitely had that, and it was just so irritating. Now, the biggest thing that I can tell you is when the drummer is off, because that rhythm just drives me crazy. So I'm trying to help the drummer get back on. So a lot of you are born with those gifts and talents, and some of you develop them over time. But I want to talk to you about a word which kind of goes along with this gifts and talents, because I'm not the only one with gifts and talents. Every one of you have some gifts and talents. There's a word called sonder. I forgot which nationality developed this word, but sonder means that everybody has a story. Everyone you meet has a story. Everybody has some talent. Everybody has something. Some people just don't discover theirs, but everybody has something. I'm not the only one with that. Everybody has something. The other thing I wanted to tell you was about something that Maya Angelou said. Maya Angelou said that we're not born with courage, but with potential. All of us have potential. We are born with that potential. Some of us just sweep that potential right under the rug and we do absolutely nothing with it. Some of us are great artists. Some of us are great with media. Some of us are great with drawing. Some of us, there are so many different talents of people that I know, and they do absolutely nothing with it. So you have to discover what that talent is. But the word again, sonder, everyone has a story. Everyone has a talent. And as Maya Angelou said, people are not necessarily born with courage, but they are born with potential. And what you do with that potential makes a difference. You can go and bury it, like in the scripture where it talks about the one that had the 1 talent, the one that had the 5 talent, the one that had the 10 talents. One of them went and buried his talent, so nothing else happened. The one that had the 5 went and doubled his, so he had 10. One had 2, I think they doubled theirs, and one had 5, and they doubled theirs. So you have to decide: are you going to use that gift and talent that you have? There's a story called Acres of Diamonds, how this man had been on this farm and he'd been trying to farm this land and he just was not successful. And after a while, he just decided, I can't do it. So he gave the land away or sold the land for a little bit of nothing. And if I'm not mistaken, that person went and committed suicide. In one of the stories that I heard, I think he went and committed suicide. He just felt like it wasn't nothing to live for, but he gave his land away for a little bit of nothing. But the person who bought the land went out there and started discovering, defining, and deploying what he could see out there in the land. And he discovered that there was acres of diamonds out there. One way I heard the story, the man left to go see if he could discover diamonds, and he already had diamonds right there on his land that he ended up given to somebody else for a little bit of nothing because he didn't know what diamonds looked like. So some of you have got talents and you've got gifts, but you won't stir those up. You won't read no books. You won't listen to other people. There's a lady out there named Bev Browning, and I don't know if Bev will listen to this, but if you look in the back of me, you'll see those grant writing for dummies, business for dummies. You'll see all these for dummies books. I had no idea that I would have an opportunity to talk to Bev Browning on the phone. I was so excited because I had read her book years ago, and I keep her book and a lot of other books. I don't even hardly read the books anymore, but I keep those books because that information doesn't go bad. The information's still good, and if I ever decide to go back, but if you really want to become good at something, you want to read books. You want to learn what other people are doing. You don't necessarily want to duplicate. You want to replicate good practices and then develop your own practices from the good practices that you learn. But there, you can learn something. Everybody has a story. I was listening to a journalist the other day, and she said that she goes into every interview knowing that she can learn something from everyone that she talks to. And that, I said, you know what? I want to take that on for life. I did take that in when I owned my child care center. When I owned the child care center, I felt like I could learn something from each one of those children. Yes, even the babies. When I taught high school for 14 years, I felt like I could learn something from those high school students. And when I'm meeting with adults, you kind of get away from that. And sometimes you start to feel like, okay, I got this. No, you need to still be learning and discovering. Some of you guys think you're too old to learn anything, or you're too young to learn anything, or you already know everything. We know you're lost if you think you already know everything. We can learn from others. So as you're talking and communicating with people, make sure that you keep the lines of communication open. So let me go ahead on and get into this defining and deploying your gifts. So my first slide, let me see. Okay, so we want to talk about the gifts, and I'm going to start with the spiritual side. What are the spiritual gifts? The definition of the spiritual gifts is that gifts are given to believers by the Holy Spirit. For those of you who read the Bible, you can find that in Romans 12, that they're given to the believers in Romans 12. Where are they found? Where are they found? Or what are they? There's the gifts of helps, there's teaching, there's exhorting, there's generosity, there's a gift of leadership, there's a gift of showing mercy. And they say leaders are not born, but apparently some are, because some are just born leaders. And I've seen some of the children in my child care center. I knew those children were going to be leaders from babies because they just came there knowing how to entreat people, and people just naturally followed them. 1 Corinthians 12, 8 through 11 says that gifts are wisdom, word of knowledge, faith, working of miracles, prophecy, discerning of spirits, tongues, and interpretation of tongues. And then for those of you who are scripturally based, Ephesians 4, 10 through 12 talks about apostles and prophets and evangelists and teachers and pastors. So those are some of the gifts. I don't know which one you have. As we go along, maybe you will learn which one you have, or at least start figuring out, trying to figure out what it is that you have. There are 4 pages for this one, and I'm on page 2 right now, and we're talking about what are the talents, because the first thing we're going to do is kind of introduce you to gifts and talents, and then we're going to break down how to discover yours, how to define yours, and how to deploy yours. And then at the very end, we'll talk about purpose. What are talents? You've got music, you've got art talent, Anyone can have a natural talent because of genetics, environments, and practice. If you are in a house full of lawyers, you may be moved towards being a lawyer. If you're in a house full of doctors, you may move towards being a doctor. If you're in a house full of poets, you might end up being a poet. And it may not be a natural talent. It may just be your environment or genetics or just practicing so much. You can practice on something and become better. So just because you were not born with talent doesn't mean that you can't develop that talent. And then God gives special gifts for the upbuilding of his kingdom. There's a man called Bezalel in Exodus 31, 1 through 6, where he was born with the gift to build. He had the gift to build. There are some people that was just born with it. I mean, it just comes natural. The next area is there are similarities of gifts and talents. Both are given by God. Gifts are from above, James 1 and 17 says, and both grow in effectiveness with use. So if you use the gift, it's going to grow. If you do nothing with it, nothing's going to happen. It goes back to what Maya Angelou said. We're not born with courage, but we're born with potential. So that potential gifts of whatever you have, if you don't work with them, you can be 50, 60 years old and still have the most talented person in the world and don't use it. It's not the most talented people that become the greatest. My son was talking about, he had heard that Jackie Robinson wasn't necessarily the best. No, he wasn't necessarily the best, but he was the man of the hour. So sometimes, even if you are the best, you may not be the one selected. So just because you're not the best, don't mean that you won't be the one that will make the difference. What are the differences between gifts and talents? Talents is the result of genetic training, talents. But spiritual gifts are given by the Holy Spirit. Spiritual gifts should be used for spiritual purposes. And I told you what the spiritual gifts were earlier. 1 Peter 4, 10 through 11 talks about some of those. Talents can be used entirely for non-spiritual purpose. Talents can be, like, I'm a writer. I love to write songs. I love to write raps. I wrote this rap for a youth talent show that I was going to, and the rap goes, I don't have no beat, but it's A is for the altar, B is for oh my goodness, I can't even remember that. Oh God, I shouldn't even be trying to rap because I don't remember the rap right now. A is for the altar, B is for begin. C is for the church in John 3:16. But anyway, so I would have some little raps that I would write. I would write raps for the kids at school and different things. So that A is for the altar, B is for begin, C is for the church, John 3:16. It goes all the way through the alphabet. I've been writing since I was knee high to a bumblebee. Never did I think I'd be doing that as a profession, and that would be how I make my living. But that is, basically what has happened. That is how I make my living now, through writing. And some of you think everything is just so spiritual that you don't think you can learn anything. I was telling someone just the other day, when they're in the Bible talking about Job had all his cattle and all of this, that's talking about his wealth. Now we don't talk about the cattle on 1,000 hills. Well, some people do. Sometimes when I'm driving down the street, I'm listening to the cattle stock market and cattle radio and all of this. And sometimes, the cattle is still worth a lot. I can't remember how much a cow was worth that I heard the other day. But when they were talking about spiritual gifts and all those different things, they were talking about their wealth. So everything is not like you think. So you can use those gifts and talents sometimes to be a blessing to the kingdom and to be your living. So talents can be used entirely for non-spiritual purposes, but those spiritual gifts are used for the upbuilding of the kingdom. But talents, on the other hand, can be used for non-spiritual purposes. The second part of this is to discover your talents. In discovering your talents, you want to use personality test tools. You can discover your talents by looking for ministries that you enjoy using them the most, jobs that you enjoy using your talent the most. It's so hard for me to get up in the morning sometimes, even though I've been going to bed at 10 o'clock every night. It's still hard for me to get up because I am a night owl. I love being up at night. I love working at night. It seems like I can get so much done. But being that I have to be somewhere, at a certain time, I can't do that. So you want to look for jobs that you enjoy. And even if you do enjoy the job and you're not a morning person, you still might not want to get up, but you want to look for things that you enjoy and where you can use your gift and talent. You want to look for ministries that you are most effective in. Some people want to lead people, but they're not a leader. Some people want to direct the choir, but have no ability to direct. They don't know how to pick songs, have no pitch, and they're not willing to buy books and practice. So you want to make sure that you're picking those things, those areas to work in that you're most effective, whether it be in your career, your job, your ministry. You want to listen to those around you about what you're good in and what you're bad in, because some people will be honest with you. Now, some political leaders, people are afraid to be honest with them because they're afraid they're going to get fired or whatever. But in most cases, you want somebody that's going to be honest with you and tell you the truth and tell you whether or not you have that talent to do that certain thing. Some people just cannot sing. That's not your gift, you know. But you want to find yours. You want to look through your books and magazines. A lot of times, if you look at the books and magazines that you've collected over the years, that'll tell you what your gifts and talents and passion is. You want to remember your childhood, because more than likely, whatever you were doing in childhood is the same thing that you're doing now. I put a picture of myself on LinkedIn and Facebook this past week where I was 15 directing the choir, and I had written a song for a family reunion. I can't remember that stuff like I used to, but I had written a song like I did for a family reunion years ago, and was directing this song that I had written for that family reunion. So whatever you're doing as a young person, if you really want to be doing something that you enjoy, you're probably going to be doing that as an adult as well. You need to find a way that you can use that to earn your living. Discover your spiritual gifts and talent. If you are a believer, seek and trust God. Proverbs 3, 5, and 6 says, Trust in the Lord with all thine heart and lean not to thine own understanding. In all thy ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct our path. You want to ask God. For those that are believers, James 1 and 5 says, if you lack wisdom, then ask for that wisdom. So, how do you define your gifts and talent? Okay, so I've discovered what it is. I know, okay, now I know I have the gift to sing, I have the gift to play, I have the gift of leadership, I have this gift, or I have this talent, or whatever. So, the way that you improve your gifts and talents is by you can improve your gifts and talents by increasing using them. You want to find opportunities. For those of you who are not spiritual, if you volunteer, that will help you to get better. Volunteer. Some people can't afford to pay staff members, so they are happy to have you as a volunteer. Determine your why. Know why you want to do what you want to do, and hopefully you have the right motives. To become better at your gifts and talents, learn the associated vocabulary. And I'm always talking about vocabulary because vocabulary is so important for whatever we are doing. You want to learn tools, tips, and techniques for your gifts and talents from the pros. So I already talked about Bev Browning because I love her, because I learned a lot of things from reading her books early on. You want to learn your strengths and weaknesses and focus on your strengths. Instead of focusing on your weaknesses, focus on your strength and then develop those weaknesses. You can continue to read books and do different things to develop your weaknesses. Don't ask for advice from people who haven't been where you're going. Everybody hasn't been where you're going. Everybody has no desire to be where you're going. So make sure that you're asking people for advice that have been where you're going. And don't forget the gift giver. Once you get there, don't forget the gift giver. Now that's for those of you who believe in the spirit. So that's defining your gift. Okay, deploying your gift. You got your gift, you know what it is. You want to develop a 10-second elevator speech about exactly what it is you have to offer, and if applicable, what price will you charge for what it is that you're doing. If you just a beginner and you're not very good, you've never written a grant that was funded, you don't really know the vocabulary, don't be trying to charge people like a grant writer has been doing it for years and somebody who has been proven. If you are the beautician, do your own hair. You say you can fry chicken, fry the best chicken that you can fry. Whatever it is that you do, you be the best at it and also be an example of that. Offer your gift or talent as a volunteer. If you offer that gift or talent as a volunteer, you can deploy that gift. Whatever you do it with excellence. Do it with excellence. Whether you are a spiritual believer or not, whatever you do it with excellence. For the spiritual believers, do it as unto the Lord with excellence. But whatever you do it with excellence. If you don't want to do it with excellence, then that probably means that's not your gift. And we have one more area. We're going to talk about demonstrating techniques to discover purpose. Make sure that you're subscribing to the website. Make sure that you're listening to the videos. Share the videos with other people. I'm not that great at doing these videos yet, so I can't tell you how to subscribe. I think if you point down here, I believe, I forgot which side I have to point to tell you to subscribe. But make sure that you're subscribing, because that'll make sure that we stay on here. So part 5, demonstration techniques to discover your purpose. This is a little scenario. You have just inherited $100 million. This is just a scenario to help you define your purpose in a contest, and you'll never have to work again. This just happened to you. So we're going to imagine this. You just won $100 million, and you will never have to work again in your life. After 1 year of enjoying some of that financial freedom, what will you be doing every day you wake up? When you can answer that question truthfully, you will have found your purpose. It's just that simple. Let me go over that one more time, because I want to make sure that you get it. This little demonstration technique for discovering your purpose. Just imagine that you just inherited $100 million. Some of you can't even imagine it. You can't even imagine inheriting $1,000, let alone $100 million. But just imagine that you inherited $100 million in a contest. And there was a contest like that, because I put together a business plan for someone, and we made it to the top 10 out of thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of people who applied, and then they decided to take 8. If they had taken 10, like they originally said, we would have gotten that 100 million. So it is a possibility to get 100 million. So let's imagine you won 100 million in a contest, and you'll never have to work again. After 1 year of enjoying financial freedom wisely, what would you be doing every day when you wake up? Because it's going to get old after a while, just going out shopping. That's going to get old. What would you be doing? And you have to think about it. Your family already has all the money they need. Everybody's all taken care of. What are you going to do every day? If you really seriously give that some thought, you will probably have discovered your purpose. Hopefully that will help you. If you're interested in getting the PowerPoint that I use for this, make sure that you contact me here, and I will be glad to make that available to you. All the PowerPoints that we're going to use from here on out, we're going to make those available to you for $5. That does not include the links, but it will include all of the information so that we can continue to do this and make it worth our while. So if you're interested, make sure that you let me know. I am Dr. Barbara Babby Wright, and I am the Certified Dream Builder. You can catch me on my website 24/7 at certifieddreambuilder.com. I have free resources on my website, personal and academic, where you can find scholarships and all of that. And then if you join, and right now it is totally free to become a member, become a dream builder. If you sign up to be a dream builder, you will also get grants, a list of grants. You will get a list of business startup tips. You will get nonprofit tips, all for free. They are only available to those who become a member. So I would love for you to become a member. Well, I see that my time is about out, and I'm going to end this stream. But I look forward to seeing you on next Thursday at about 7:30. And hopefully this was enjoyable for some of you. All right, have a great day. Don't forget, discover, define, and deploy those talents, and make sure that you find your purpose and use it. Listen to this video again if you need to, and subscribe. please subscribe. Send me an email. Let me know that you subscribe. CertifiedDreamBuilder@yahoo.com. CertifiedDreamBuilder@yahoo.com. I appreciate you guys. Have a great day.